Well, good morning. This is Lou Benninger. And it's supposed to be 100. 100, as they say in Olivehurst and Linda out there, 100 today. And we're up here on Mount Huth. It's kind of misty up here with kind of a cannabis cloud floating around, a little smoggy up here. And we are here for 3 hours today. I was going to say we're here live. Well, we're here kind of live. We're alive. It's a fresh show. It's not a reheat, best of, worst of. But we're preparing this show several hours ahead of time because we couldn't be here together on the other side of this glass together on Saturday. So, but it's all new stuff. So we're going to talk about same stuff I would have talked about if we were doing it live. Again, 742-5555, 530 area code is our phone number. And we obviously won't be here to answer your phone call, but you could leave a message if you want to vote yay or nay. Either way is fine with me. This is a Patriot. They call it 1410 AM. We're in East Yuba County, out here in what they call Linda, an uncharted territory outside the city limits of Marysville. And we're hoping one day to be the state of Jefferson. Still, they call it California, as one of my ladies at the jail, who works at the jail, always calls it California. And all you have to do is look at the ballot, your ballot summary, and your position statements of some of those candidates, like Xavier Becerra, to realize you're being governed by socialists, and maybe a few communists and quite a few perverts. So we're going to be here talking about some election stuff and all kinds of stuff, really. I'm not going to give you a preview, but we're sponsored by a couple folks that I'm very thankful for, and that's Elite Universal Security and also Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots. Also, we do some spots for my two friends, Dave Greenitz Construction, who is one of the best contractors I ever met. If I ever make a lot of money, I'm going to get me one of those fancy bathrooms, marble and all that stuff that when you get in there, you don't want to ever have to leave. And then Ted Holmes, who does lift-off floors, and he also does the plumbing doctor. Ted is a longtime friend of mine. I've traveled all over the world with Ted, building stuff and helping folks out, working on orphanages down in the Otay Mesa area of Tijuana. And so thank you for supporting us. Thank you for listening. One of a regular listener who is fastidious about making sure I mind my P's and Q's sent me a little funny joke, and I'm going to just share it with you because I get kind of, normally stuff people send me, I just think neither here. I'm too busy to read everything, actually. I got too much work to do. And then I need to prepare this radio show and write a couple articles for the Territorial Dispatch. So, this goes to an 83-year-old lady, which there's a lot of them nowadays, 80-year-old ladies, right? There's a lot of 80-year-old people nowadays because of better health and better medicine, etc. So this 83-year-old lady was wrapping up her physical examination, and the doctor said, "You're in fine shape for your age, Mrs. Green, but tell me, do you still have intercourse?" And she said, "Well, just a minute. I'll have to ask my husband. He's out in the waiting room." So she stepped out in the crowded waiting room and yelled, "Hey, Bob, do we still have intercourse?" And, of course, in the waiting room, everybody's sitting in the waiting room staring at each other, like wondering what's wrong with you, right? They're looking at each other and wondering how come I'm not getting in. Well, the reason is everybody's got to wait at the doctor's office. So you don't get right in, otherwise there wouldn't be a waiting room, obviously, right? So obviously there was a hush in the room waiting for the response from Bob, and Bob answered, kind of put out, of course. He said, "If I told you once, Irma, I've told you 100 times. What we have is Blue Cross." So for all you people out there on Obamacare, no, you're not having intercourse. You may have got screwed, but you didn't get intercourse. And what you got is Obamacare or something along those lines. This week, I've just been amazed. I'm telling you, I think these are times like no other. Do you agree? Remember Assembly Speaker Bonner? He's being interviewed, and he says there is no Republican Party under Trump. It is taking a nap somewhere. And I thought, and then he made some kind of a snide remark about Melania Trump hoping against that Donald wouldn't win the election, that she really didn't want to come to Washington, and she always looked unhappy, and maybe the reason she's unhappy not only because he won the presidency, but she doesn't really want to be with him. I thought, you know something, pal, what I remember about Assembly Speaker Boehner or Boner or Bonner, whatever you want to go with, was the sucker's a drunk, right? And he's got no principles. And he's the swamp. He's like the icon. They should build a statue of him somewhere in Washington, D.C. for the Rhino Swamp. And then all this talk about, was it Roseanne that got into that thing about Valerie Jarrett and made a comment about her being a mix of from the Planet of the Apes and the Muslim Hamas, or as they say in Oliver's, hummus over there in Oliver's. And, that just pissed people all off. And so they had to, can Roseanne. But it's like, well, when did anybody start minding their verbal behavior? Because if you go on Google and look up Republicans, somewhere down there you'll see they have a philosophy similar to the Nazis. Or do you remember when Trump referred to, or Obama referred to Trump as a cartoon character? Or do you remember when the Tea Party launched and they referred to the Tea Party people as tea baggers, referring to a part of the body that holds the Spaldings? Nobody even blinked on that, right? And then Wanda Sykes, she's a foul-mouthed black gal, right? I used to think she's really funny. In 2016, she commented after the election that we elected an orangutan to run the country. So it's kind of like if white comics get fired for making jokes about black people, should black comics be fired for making jokes about white people? Well, since I'm thinking about that right now, I just like to remind everybody that this is a white station, and we actually have a White History Month here. You know how people celebrate Black History Month and Hispanic History Month, right? Did you know that La Raza, which a lot of those guys in the state capital of California or California are La Raza members, Xavier Becerra, and they're so proud of it? The English translation is the race. Now, if I started referring to this station instead of the Patriot as KMYC 1410 AM, lifting up the white race or the race, white people, hell would break loose, would it not? It's interesting how we have these multiple standards. So I appreciate Sarah Sanders. Every time I see her on Facebook, I always want to listen to her little talk she gives. I get it comes across my Facebook feed for some reason. So she went after this double standard and hypocrisy over everybody's reaction to Roseanne Barr, as they say. And so she asked this. She said, where was the Bob Iger apology to the White House staff for Jameel Hill's calling the president and anyone associated with him a white supremacist? And she said to Christians around the world, where was their apology for Joy Behar calling Christianity a mental illness? And so Kathy Griffin now is kind of getting some more of her mojo back. And so the question was, where was the apology on behalf of Kathy Griffin going on a profane rant against the president on The View? Remember, she had a photo of her holding what looked to be President Trump's decapitated head. And how about an apology for ESPN hiring Keith Olbermann again after how many, can you even count how many expletive-laced tweets attacking the president as a Nazi or expanding all his attacks on all members of the Trump family. I mean, we could spend 30, 40 minutes on all these verbal attacks on the Trumps. And then they asked about, in other words, you could be a bigot if you're a liberal. Now, then there's the other question. Everybody say, well, where is Melania? Where is Melania? Oh, they want to make a big deal about, oh, she doesn't want to live at the White House. She wants this. She doesn't like her husband anymore. She's this, she's that. They don't care where she is. All they want to do is stir up crap. That's all they want to do. They don't give a rip about whether she dropped dead tomorrow. They would be thrilled if the Trumps got run over in any kind of a disaster. They just got run over. Well, there is a lot going on, and I just think it's interesting to watch it. My friends, a lot of my conservative friends, I have a lot of church friends. My sadness is about a lot of conservative people. They're stupid. They just don't know what they're doing. They listen to the media like it's the 1950s, and you can actually believe what they're saying. And did you know that the Democrats are spending millions of dollars not running, there isn't a two-party primary. So in the primary, you just run against people of your own party, and you run campaigns ads against people of your own party. But right now, the liberals in the state of California are running ads to undermine their strongest opponent, which would be on the conservative side, John Cox. And so they're undermining, they're running as if it's a general election and undermining all his stances, but it makes it look like they're Travis Allen people undermining his conservatism. Now, in the general election, if he makes it, they're going to attack his conservatism. But in the primary, they're going to make it look like he's really not a conservative. But in the general, they'll make it like he's a Nazi. He's very conservative. He's going to take away all your freedoms and all that kind of stuff. So it's very, very interesting. Now, I was sitting at home minding my own business, and the phone rang, and normally I don't answer it if there's a lot of screwy numbers because I know it's just a solicitation. So I didn't answer it, but then I saw they left a message. So usually these solicitors don't leave a message. So I thought, there's quite a message there, so maybe it's something I need to listen to. And it was the California Pro-Life Council and Brian Johnston. Well, Brian Johnston is a reputable guy who's run the California Pro-Life Council, man, I don't know, it seemed like 20 years. And he was giving a talk on there about how vote for John Cox for governor because he's pro-life. And I thought, well, that's just another person or another group that is endorsing him. And so I listened to his talk, and it just said, hey, beware, this isn't a two-party primary, and if we do not get a conservative in the final election, we don't even get a choice in the final election to vote for life. So I thought, well, good for him. He's putting the word out. It was a little late to me. I mean, here it is. It was like the 29th or 30th that I got that message. And here, this coming Tuesday, the vote's going to happen. Well, I haven't paid that much attention to Travis Allen. I know he's supposedly a Republican. But, Republicans, most of them aren't very conservative folks. So I haven't got into the weeds on all his stances and all his votes, Travis Allen, because Cox right away had the lead, and he was of the two, he was the guy we had the best chance of getting into the finals. So before Newt Gingrich endorsed him, or before Donald Trump endorsed him, or before Doug LaMoffa, the congressman from the North State, endorsed him, and before Jim Nielsen, our state senator from the Yuba County area, endorsed him, I got on the Cox bandwagon mainly because I would like to have a conservative to vote for in the finals and have a shot at Newsom anyway, right? Well, then I got an email from Randy Thomason from the SaveCalifornia.com. You know that website? Randy has taken over this radio show when I've had to be out of the United States before. He's just kind of come up here and sat in the chair and did it. Very nice guy. He lives down in the Sacramento area. And in fact, he's spoken at the Church of Glad Tidings where I go. We've invited him up to speak, I don't know, a few times. He's a very good speaker. And so I got an email from him, and on his site, you can go to it and check it out. It's got the legislative votes of a lot of the candidates. It's got recommendations from different organizations, and it's got the pro-life views of John Cox and Travis Allen. And I thought, I'm going to look at it. Pretty cool. So I was kind of taken back. And because I trusted some of the people I knew about Travis Allen and about John Cox that were really insiders in the sense that they really knew something about the person. They'd met them. They knew them personally, et cetera, et cetera. And so Travis Allen's record on anti-abortion is not stellar. For instance, there were 4 resolutions celebrating unlimited taxpayer-funded abortions for any reason at any age. So if you're a conservative, you would have voted against all 4 of them, right? Because they were resolutions celebrating the unlimited taxpayer-funded abortions for any reason at any age. Most conservatives, even lukewarm conservatives, would have voted against that resolution to celebrate that fact. Travis Allen abstained on all 4 of those. That was H.R. 32, S.J.R. 19, H.R. 5, and H.R. 6. And then Travis Allen also abstained on 2 bills in 2013, which expanded abortions in California. Now, the ones I just read, the 4 I just read, were in 2017. But 2013, he abstained on this bill, allowing non-physicians to perform surgical abortions. In other words, they could just train somebody to do that, and they don't even have to be a doc. It could be a nurse, could be a physician's assistant, could be a certified midwife, could do an abortion. So he decided not to vote on that bill. And then there was another AB 980, which passed in 2013, essentially gutted any regulations slowing down abortions in California, and he abstained on that one. Now, I don't know why he just abstains on these. It's a little disconcerting to me because I got some friends I used to attend church to that they are like traveling the Travis train. So in 2013, and then we're going to take a break because we got to let somebody else talk here. Travis Allen joined the majority of Democrats in the California Assembly in voting yes for the Planned Parenthood-supported bill AB 926, permitting payments to a woman to encourage her to produce eggs, her own eggs, for the purposes of medical research. Pro-life experts said this bill would promote the painful exploitation and wounding of poor women. Governor Brown, a pro-abortion Democrat, vetoed it, writing in his veto message, "Not everything in life is for sale, nor should it be." Well, thank you, Jesus. We're going to be right back after a few comments by other folks that are smarter than me.
When I turned 18, I couldn't wait to vote. After all, voting is a privilege for all Americans, right? Then I did the math. Did you know that the northern third of California only has 3 out of 80 seats in the Assembly and 3 out of 40 seats in the Senate? Northern California has no representation, and my vote doesn't count. Splitting from California and forming the state of Jefferson is the only remedy. Please visit soj51.net for more information. Please donate now to help restore representation.
Check out the Territorial Dispatch. Papers are weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch, which features local news and events for the Yuba, Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
All right, well, we're going to have a little theme here for a while today, certainly, about taxes, because I was driving down the road the other day, and it's dry out, no rain, and I saw a lot of liquid going down over by the courthouse. I saw liquid going down the gutter. I thought, oh, man, they're like water wasters. But then I realized it was drool coming from the supervisor's chambers, and because they realized that the city of Marysville thought they were going to make $1 million to $1.4 million off their 1% sales tax, but in the paper, Peel Democrats said they doubled that. So I'm thinking we're going to get a bunch of people wanting to raise some money around here. So we're going to be talking about sales taxes, and I'm going to be talking later. I got myself a property tax bill from out there in Plumas Lake that lists all the stuff. There's been people posting all kinds of stuff on Facebook trying to talk about this. Oh, we should vote for schools. We need new schools. Have you been out there? Plumas Lake, they got some nice schools out there. They want more nice schools. You drive around Marysville, looks like a bomb. The best school in Marysville is the worst looking school in Marysville. That's Mary Kovalot. In fact, Wiki Man's wife used to work over there. And it's the best school it's best school in Yuba County, and the administration of the city or the Marysville Joint Unified School District has boycotted doing any improvements over there. And well, anyway, I'm getting off on a little rabbit trail, but I wanted to talk about it anyhow. We're going to be talking about taxes. I've got a lot of clips. I'm going to be playing songs about taxes, because government never seems to have enough money. You vote people into office, say, we're going to shrink government. In fact, did you see where Donald Trump shrunk since he's been in office? 24,000 fewer federal workers. I want you to just think about that. 24, that's twice the size of Marysville, including newborns all the way up to people 100 and something. Twice Marysville getting maybe 80,000, 200,000 a year. They just shrunk it. Boom. They're off the payroll. We don't need those folks. By the way, the lights are on right now. We just made a cup of coffee out here. Life is good. Electricity is working. There's soda in the fridge. And the air conditioning's on. It's a miracle. And 24,000 people are no longer on the payroll of the federal government, and life is going on forward. Huh. Well, locally, it doesn't matter whether it's the schools or it's the government. You can see the drool going down the gutters because Marysville is cashing in. They've got money coming out their ears. In fact, if you walk by City Hall, there might be a $50 bill blowing around out there. There's so much money. So I was talking before we went to let other people talk here at the first half-hour break about, I was so shocked when I read that Travis Allen, for some reason, was ducking all these pro-life and pro-abortion votes. He wouldn't vote. He just ducked out. Like Randy Fletcher abstains a lot over there at the Yuba County. He abstains. And old Allen, he's abstaining left and right on buying embryos and abortion, and having anybody do an abortion, maybe have the custodian trained to do an abortion. he would abstain on things like that. I was shocked because I just thought if he's conservative. Now, here's the other thing that's odd. This is confusing to me. James Gallagher, because I was on the SaveCalifornia.com site and on Loose Picks for my friends, I offer them, because I get tired of talking to people on the phone, I just give them a list by email. If they ask if they want it, they say, Lou, what are you doing? And then I just say, I don't want to really debate it with you. Do whatever you want to do, but that's what I did. So anyway, on my Loose Picks, I put James Gallagher because I don't always agree with James. In fact, I'm having problems with his ethics lately. But he has a good voting record on pro-life, according to SaveCalifornia.com, because I looked it up. I'm not guessing. Now, some of you like Russ Brown out there and Mike and Ron Sullinger and the watching all my P's and Q's. Oh, well, you said the wrong name. You did this. You got the number not exactly right. So I'm trying my best. So anyway, James Gallagher got a high ranking from the pro-life people, but it's very odd that he would endorse a governor candidate that has the right to reject, in other words, veto bills or bless bills. I mean, everything's got to go through the governor's office. And he is endorsing Travis Allen, a pro-abortion guy, for governor of the state of California. Isn't that interesting? And his buddies, Senator Nielsen and Doug LaMalfa, are taking a different tact. In other words, they're endorsing Cox, along with Newt Gingrich, Donald Trump, et cetera, a number of pro-life people, pro-life council, SaveCalifornia.com, da-da-da-da. So methinks that Mr. Gallagher and Mr. Travis Allen have got a little deal worked together that you bless me, I'll bless you, right? That happens in politics. So this last week, two bills that James Gallagher put forth, one was, and I liked both of them. Sometimes I don't think they go far enough, but it's better than nothing, right? So one of them was that the Department of Water Resources, if they're going to be in charge of inspecting the dam, they shouldn't be in charge of repairing the dam. We should have two different people doing that. I thought that's good, because these guys may just be covering their own backside, which they did during the Oroville Dam spillway debacle. And so his bill was moving through various committees, and he made it. It got a good start, and then it got defeated. And the other bill was, hey, we need to have armed security guards on our schools, and we need to fund that at the state level. And so that also got stopped. And so some people are asking this question. If James Gallagher would spend more time in Sacramento working on these bills and less time meddling in all these local central committees, Republican central committees, with his partner in crime, Curtis Grima, and quit trying to control supervisor elections like with Barbara LaFake, and DA elections like Amanda Bopper, we it's like we're paying him and we're paying Grima to work in Sacramento, and Grima's up here cashing in on all these elections, moonlighting. And I thought, well, when actually is he working for the people? Because when he's trying to undermine candidates that I'm interested in, I thought, well, maybe, am I paying him to like give me a hard time? Am I paying Gallagher, my tax dollars going to Gallagher, to come up here and meddle in all these elections? I thought, I wish he'd just stay down there in Sacramento and fight the pedophiles and weirdos and La Raza and communists down there and socialists, and leave us farm folks alone. So that's that. Now, I noticed, you know how they print in the paper who got money from whom to run for office, and I was talking to John Missler, who owns the Territorial Dispatch, And some people think I'm an owner over there, or I get paid to work over there. I'm not either. I don't get paid, and I'm not an owner. And actually, I rarely go in there, maybe once every few weeks to do something. But the paper got a call complaining about Supervisor Vasquez getting money from a couple casinos that are out of the area, one up in Oroville and one over in Auburn. He got a few $1,000s from them and thought that was a problem. And so, but if you look at all these people that are running for office got money from somebody. They got money from a union, they got money from Recology, and from propane businesses, from all kinds of people, construction companies, farmers. You know why people give money to candidates like that? Because they're hoping that they vote in ways that they sort of philosophically are beholden to. Now, the reason the tribes that have casinos within 50 miles of here are having a fit about this local Fire Mountain Casino, Enterprise Rancheria, going in here in Wheatland area, it isn't because they're anti-competition necessarily. It's because that they followed all the rules that they would build a casino on their reservation. Some of the reservations that they built on weren't the greatest locations, right? Some reservations may be fine with the folks that want to live there, but they're not great to run a business out of. But the government said that's where you ought to run your casinos. So a lot of the tribes, there's over 70 tribes now in California that have casinos. And so they're complaining, and they have complained to the Bureau of Indian Affairs about the fact that this casino operation in South Yuba County, they feel, is unlawful. And basically they just manipulated the laws and rules and manipulated people to vote their way and paid people off and got what they wanted. So they're saying to Mr. Vasquez that they appreciate his support of their view. Now, where it gets to be unlawful is where there's what they call a quid pro quo, QUIDPROQUO. And that is where somebody comes to me as an elected official and said, I'd really like to get this property, the zoning changed on this property so I could do such and such. And it's so important to me that I'll contribute $10,000 to your campaign. Or I'd really like to get this legislation passed or something, or do this or fix this for me, and I will pay you this amount of money. That'll get you arrested. In fact, Leland Yee, state senator from the area of San Francisco, and the Calderon brothers all got arrested for different incidences on a FBI sting where they did just what I explained to you just then. Now, Ricky Scamilloa, the mayor of Marysville, if they would have had a sting going, I believe Ricky Scamilloa would have been in jail right now because he took $5,000 payments from the dispensary folks down there in Sacramento. People, either the dispensary folks on one $5,000, and then people related to this dispensary folks another $5,000, and then right after that he voted to accept their appeal after their application for a dispensary was rejected. That's where you get yourself in trouble right there. So, but you could look if you want to look up who got money from whom. In the paper, let's see, May 31st, Appeal Democrat, you can check that out for yourself, and it starts right on page 1, and you can look at the latest folks if that makes a difference to you. So, anyhow, that's it. The other thing, let's see. I'll stay on this election thing for a second. If you are desperate and you want to see what I did on Loose Picks, normally in the mail how you're getting all these flyers. They say they're Republican Party, they're conservative, And they're deceptive flyers. What they are, and they'll list a bunch of candidates to vote for, that these are our best candidates. Like they vetted them and they checked them out. They know them personally and they're good as gold and they're not pedophiles or weirdos or ripoffs. And say, these are the ones to vote for. Well, then you look closer and you'll see these little asterisks, and then down at the bottom you see that those candidates actually paid to be on that flyer. You know what I'm saying? So those people are trying to, if you don't look really close, they're trying to persuade you to vote a certain way, right? Instead of just being honest and send you a flyer on behalf of Lou Benninger, if Lou Benninger's running or whoever, and just saying, this is what I stand for, I'd be happy to have your vote. They don't do that. They're deceptive. Isn't that? It's tough when the candidate starts off lying. It's one thing if they tell you the truth in the election and then they lie, you learn they lied later. You think they're telling you the truth in the election, and they lie later. You find out, oh, that guy was just the opposite of what he said. So anyway, if you are desperate, you don't know what you're doing in this election, if you want to send me a text with your email, I will email you my loose picks. I'm not trying to tell you how to vote. I'm just telling you what I did because I did the research. And so you don't need to call me up or text me, why did you do this, why did you do that? Either do it or don't do it and just move on, right? Go have an ice cream sundae or something and save the trouble. So my phone number is 530-713-1838. And I'll say it again, 530-713-1838. All you have to do is put loose picks and your email, and I'll send you a copy by email. And it's very easy, and you can, if you've already made up your mind and you disagree with me, have a happy. If you are confused about something and you just want somebody else's eyesight on it, then have a happy. Doesn't hurt my feelings either way. Life goes on. So I've been looking, during this election season, and of course, everybody's wanting money. And everybody's all getting worked up. And this Measure G out there in Plumas Lake, Wheatland area is going to raise your tax bill by a few $100s. What's wrong with my computer here? It's locked up here. Come on, baby. It's going to raise taxes by a few $100s, and I had someone sent me, but I can't get my computer to work. I'm going to have to skip that. So anyway, Measure G is going to raise your taxes here we go. It's happening. Raise your taxes by a few $100s. Sorry for the delay. My system is got a hiccup in it. And so people have been posting their taxes on their tax statements on the internet. And I have been getting a kick out of it because my taxes in the city of Marysville are a lot different because I don't live out there in that Plumas Lake area, or I don't live out in Edgewater or out in those nice subdivisions where the taxes are really high. So I'm trying to find this, and my apologies to you. I may have to just wait because my computer is really slow. So anyway, I'm going to come back after the break, and I will go through the tax breakdown, which is shocking. Like out at Plumas Lake, the lady that sent me her tax statement, she just requested it today because she couldn't find it. Yuba County sent it over to her, and her taxes are between $3,000 and $4,000, and half of her taxes are what we call property taxes, and the other half of that $3,500, $3,500 round figure, I'll tell you exactly in a minute, goes to bonds, improvement districts, levy bonds, school bonds. It's unbelievable. So she's got like $1,700 in this kind of bond, that kind of bond, this kind of fee, County Service Area, what they call a CSA. And so this Measure G, they want to raise her taxes by about $300 a year. On top of that, push her up into the $4,000. That's not a house payment. That's in addition to her house payments. Now, it's interesting because I brought up the issue in an article and on the radio about they still have 400 or 500 empty seats out there in these schools in Plumas Lake. They said, well, there's all kinds of building permits being taken. Well, that's deceptive in itself, because just because a house is going to be built does not mean a child's going to live in it. You got any children in your house? No, you take it. You got some grandkids you're raising out there? Yeah. But the average, and I was talking to some school people, and the ratio of how many houses have kids to how many houses don't, it's like very tiny. Like most houses don't have any kids. So just because a building permit is taken out does not mean that that translates to more butts in the seats at school. The second thing is that's I haven't got to the bottom of yet, but it's being deceptively portrayed, is that somebody said on the Facebook that there's only 20 or 30 interdistrict transfers out there at Plumas Lake. I find that hard to believe. Mary Kovalad, I'm told, in downtown Marysville is a K through 6. I think it's a K through 6 or K through 5. They have about 500 kids. Doug Eshman told me half the kids in that school are transfers. They're either coming over from other Marysville schools or from Yuba City schools. So one school in in Marysville Joint Unified School District has 200 and something transfers, and you're telling me that the current 3 schools, I think it's 3 schools out there in Plumas Lake, 2 or 3, have only 20? So my point was in my article I wrote a while back is like, hey, before you build another school, why don't we tell all the interdistrict transfers you're not welcome here, because we got to fill the kids that are paying for this school deserve to be in this school, right? And then if we got any room after all that's done, that's the way it works on this interdistrict transfer. Once we fill up all those seats and there's 4 or 5 seats left, then we'll take the interdistrict transfers, inter or intra. The other thing that is deceptive or deceitful is all those schools today could lease modulars. Those modular classrooms, I've taught in those modular classrooms for years. They're nice. There's nothing wrong with them. And it's a lot cheaper than going out and adding bonds for the rest of people's lives. They're 30-year bonds. It's incredible. People end up paying $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 more over 30 years in their taxes. And people are saying, hey, I pay enough taxes. I'm done paying taxes. Like thank God for our levies, but we're paying through the nose for those levies for probably the rest of our life. And we're already paying for bonds for those schools you're using out there. So why don't you get content with what you have? So hopefully I can get this computer to work right in the break. And I want to then talk about the 1% sales tax increase that Yuba County is beating the drum for. And if you watch any liquid going down around the courthouse, that'd be the drool off those supervisors' chin. We'll be right back. All right. Well, we were talking about the cost of adding another bond for South Yuba County. We haven't even got to the 1% sales tax yet, but I was looking at this copy of the tax bill for a resident in Plumas Lake, and there's an $1,871.70 property tax, and then there's another $1,715.16 of what they call voter-approved taxes and taxing agency direct charges and special assessments and fees. It's a mouthful, right? You don't want that to be the title of your book. So when you look at the breakdown, you have a YCCD, that's Yuba College Community District. bond. And he got a 2006A, a 2006B, and a 2006C, all to support Yuba County Community College. Yuba Community College District, YCCD. And then there is a Wheatland High School District bond for 2016 that y'all voted for. Now, all these, nobody forced these on you. You voted for them, the majority of you. And so so you got 3 bonds for Yuba College Community District. And then you got a Wheatland High School bond. And then it jumps down to these other areas like direct charges and special assessments and fees. So then we have the Trilla, we call it Trilla, which was the Three River Levee Improvement Agency. The Trilla Levee and Flood bonds, and that's almost $178 a year. And that rebuilt all those levees that all of you are feeling a lot safer about, right? Out there in Plumas Lake, etc. Nice levees. But we're paying for it, right? $178. Then Oliver's Public Utility District is getting a fee of $600 per piece of property, just a flat-out fee. Now, one of their members or former members went on and said, hey, we're going to be cutting that in half. Now, it's kind of timely that would come out that way, right, about the time of this Measure G, that we're going to cut that in half, and they'll cut it down to $300. But right now, people are paying $600 a year. All of y'all. It's per piece of property, not per assessment value. And then there's a reclamation district, $784. There's another almost $61 there. And then there's a community service area. I talked to one of the fellows in fact, Chris Starkey, who has One Eye Blind Media. If you don't get to listen to this completely, or you want to hear it later, get a reheat on it, you can go to One Eye Blind Media and click on Live with Lou and listen to whatever show you want to listen to. But Chris Starkey, who runs that YouTube site, One Eye Blind Media, he used to work for Yuba County, and he worked for other counties, and he worked on managing the all the data on these improvement districts. They call them service areas, CSAs, community service area. So throughout Yuba County, he was telling me today, because he was educating me, he said, Lou, there's service areas, community service areas with varying numbers, differentiating each one from the other, all over the county, up in the hills, mountains, in the valley, depending on what they were doing, putting up street lights, sewage, culverts, whatever, paving roads. So on this bill in Plumas Lake, it's the CSA number 66A, Plumas Lake, almost $500, $467.76. So you got OPUD at $600, you got Plumas Lake at $467.76, you got Trilla at $177.86. Then you got Plumas Elementary School District, and you got another direct charge of $320. That's per parcel. It's getting a little expensive to live out there, you guys. But it's up to you, because I'm not going to have to pay on that Measure G, because I live over here in Marysville on Tweaker Street, 11th. It's now become a little Tweakerville over there. And we got people that you can tell them when they're tweaking, when a limb falls off, and then they stare at it for 2.5 days before they pick it up out of the street. They just kind of count the branches and the leaves and pray over it and, see if there's any bugs on it and kind of pick at it a little bit. So anyway, on this tax bill, there's $1,871.70 of just your property got taxed, your parcel plus your improvements, right? On top of that, you got another almost twice that. You got you got $1,871, then you got $1,715 in Yuba College bonds, Wheatland High School bonds, and then you got Trilla flood control levies. OPUD fee is $600. The flood control is almost $178. Reclamation district, that's a levy. CSA, that's like all the improvements to Plumas Lake, all those parks, sewage, paving, lights, all that, the nice makes it block walls, landscaping, almost $500 a year till you assume room temperature. And then Plumas Elementary School. So they're going to add another $300. So on this bill, or it depends on per the assessment, but it could be $200 to $300. It's going to push this bill right up close to $4,000. And that's not counting your house payment. Your house payment is more money. You haven't touched your principal or the interest yet. That's just paying for the privilege of living out there in Plumas Lake. Now you're going to add to build more schools that you really don't need. I saw that principal. He looked like a nice guy. I saw him talking on Facebook, and he was pitching this, how they're going to run out of room. And I thought, something, I think if I was running that school, I don't think I'd run out of room. I think I'd get rid of my interdistrict transfers. And just because people, I got a kick out of it, and the guys do the best they can over there at the Peel Democrat, those writers. But I don't think they knew what hard questions to ask. So when they got told, well, if you look at the 2016 building permits and then 15 building permits and 17 building permits and now the 2018 building permits, it's going up. And so your natural inclination is to think, if a house is being built, there's going to be kids in it. But that is not the truth. There's hardly any houses with kids in them. Do you know that? Like up and down my street, most houses do not have children. Most of them have adults working. And so to just assume just because there's a house built, what a house being built means is there's going to be more people paying to live out there and paying for those improvements. But, and the thing is, in California, I don't know about the rest of the country, but in California, once your kids are raised, you still are paying on the schools for the rest of your life. Hold that thought. You could be 150 and still be paying for schools, and you're out of the school-making business. You're not producing no more kids. It's like that gal asked her, the 83-year-old gal asked her husband whether they were still having intercourse. He said, no, we got we got Blue Cross. No kids for us. So now we have this fancy flyer. We get these flyers from Yuba County, like they tell you to mow your lawn, otherwise your house is going to burn down. Or they tell you it's going to rain, and therefore it might flood, therefore get you a go bag. And so they send out these, I don't know, it must cost a few dollars per flyer to send these out. They're multicolored. See this? How fancy. And and if they want your input, the postage is paid both ways. Very fancy. So they send these out and they'll tell you to wear a hat because it's hot out, or to drink water, or to not go out there. And it's like your mom when you go outside and she'll say, don't catch cold. I thought, okay. I'll just watch. I won't chase a cold down. Don't catch cold. Wear a coat. Put on your hat. Wear your earmuffs. So now, since she's dead, now Bob Bendorf's taken that job and tells me to wear my earmuffs. And I can pay him $300,000 to tell me that each year. I thought, that makes me feel good. He's watching out for me. So he's saying, listen, it's going to rain here in a few months, so think about it and put some stuff in your car so you can get out of town quick. Or if you're up in the mountains, he'll say, mow your yard or sprinkle your yard, because the fire may come your way, and you're too stupid to figure this out on your own. Even if you're told every year, we have to remind you every year that it's going to get hot again. Did you know that? I've kind of caught on to the seasons, but when you're living in a socialist government, they tell you every year, now it's the time, right? It's like your mother saying, we're getting ready to leave. Go to the bathroom before we leave. Go pee. Or as they say when you're little, they double everything, so it's pee-pee, poo-poo, night-night, right? They got to double everything up because just saying it once won't get it. You got to do a little redundant. Bye-bye, not bye, but bye-bye. When you get an adult, it's bye. Not, they say poop, not poop, poop. So it's wear your coat. So Bob Bendorf, we pay him $300,000 to get these flyers. So I got this thing in the mail. It's called the Join the Conversation. No, what this is join the tax revolution. And they want us to raise our own taxes. What that's called, one day, when we started getting into drugs, I had a friend of mine who lived in East Marysville, and he bought himself a gun. I thought, well, what are you having a gun for? What an ego trip. He had a small gun he carried in his pocket in case somebody gave him. So one day he pulled it out real quick, and he shot himself right in the foot. And I thought, you know something? This is what this flyer is. Yuba County 911, join the conversation. What are your public safety priorities? So then it says, would you like to be raped? Right? These questions, all right, let me see can I get everybody on the same page on this? Would you be in favor of having more cops on the street and 911 dispatchers? Or would you like to call 911 and have nobody answer? How about would you like to have the elderly and children continually being abused and nobody do anything about it? How about let's not train any sheriff's officers. Let's just pick some people up down at the local day labor and just throw a uniform on them and say, there, you got yourself a car, get yourself a bottle of water, we'll throw that in on the deal. Here's you a gun and a taser and all that kind of stuff, and God bless you. Pray over them, send them out. Then do you care whether we take care of our parks or do we give a damn about our veterans? Or how about road maintenance? Do you care about those potholes, or should you fill those yourselves? And then there's a question, protecting, should we have fire services? Now, this is a funny thing. Government, when we created local government, the people that did it for one reason only. And that was to provide public safety. And somehow these guys that get $200,000-$300,000 a year now think that we forgot all about that, and we got to pay them, then we got to pay extra on top to get public safety. And then they said, listen, we don't think, unless we raise taxes, we don't think we're going to be able to take care of pedophiles. You're on your own. In other words, high-risk offenders, we're not going to be able to track them like we used to. We're just going to kind of like have a sanctuary city for pedophiles, right? And then finally, we're concerned about this is such a worn-out argument. They should have, if they'd have called me, I'd have said, listen, let me come up with some better arguments for you. Because Marysville did this. They told pitiful, poor people that are a step away from the rest home, honey, if your heart starts to flutter, we don't know whether we'll be able to get over to your house within an hour or two unless you raise your own taxes, and then we'll get there in 3 or 4 minutes. But if you don't pass these taxes, we don't know whether we can help anymore or not. You're kind of on your own. Like maybe have a first aid kit and buy some Mercurochrome. Isn't this ridiculous? This thing costs probably $2 or $3 to put this together. Well, actually, not even put it together, but to print it and send it out. And then you're supposed to check these off. It's like, hey, would you rather be constipated for a month or go once a day? Choose 1 through 7. Highly likely or don't really give a rip. This thing is a total fraud. It's like the question you ask a candidate, when did you quit beating your wife? Pretty disingenuous, folks, but that's what, and they're going to go for this 1% tax, and you're probably you got the Measure G coming up in just a few days. You're going to vote on that out there in South Yuba County, and then in November, we're going to get the 1% tax thing. Now, if you want to see my picks, I'll email them out to you. I'm not going to beat this to death, but I give you my phone number once more, 530-713-1838. They said over at the Territorial, and actually said at the Territorial and then also at the Church of Glad Tidings people are calling in there asking for them. People just don't have time to look everything up. People don't know all those people. 713-1838. Now, on the way out here, we got a couple more minutes. On the way out, when Wikiman Santos and I came out here, we had an accident. We rarely have. It's a straightaway. How do you have an accident on a straightaway? And look a little gnarly. So it reminded me when I drove through of a friend of mine, Jay Bordenkircher, who retired from Yuba City Fire off about, I don't know, I thought he worked there 31 years. I think I don't know, he said 35 or 36 years, but he's retired now. And I met him in the early 90s. In 1992, I met Jay, and we became friends, and he's a great guy, and he still helps train tip volunteers on how to go roll up on a dangerous area like a fire or a medical aid or a car crash. So he has the 5 Ds, Jay Bordenkircher's 5 Ds, and so he says he's really concerned about tip volunteers being out on traffic accidents because he said people, like we just drove through, people run over the emergency responders. They get to looking at the car wreck and they run over the emergency worker. And so he has the 5 Ds to describe the people that are behind the wheel and why you need to really be careful. So the 5 Ds are, they are drunk, drugged, deranged, distracted, and dumb. If you want to write those down, grab your crayon out there in Olivehurst, and here's the 5 Ds. They're drunk, drugged, deranged, distracted, and dumb. I think I've been all of those at one time in my life. I've passed all those. So anyway, well, I wanted to mention this Monday, as we're coming to the close. Are we cut? Let's see. Oh, we got 2 minutes. Okay. So Sutter Butte Tea Party Patriots, who meet on the first and third Monday of every month, and that's this Monday, first Monday of June. They're having an ice cream social where they meet at the Church of Glad Tidings, and I think they're going to have it maybe outside because it's still light and the weather's great. Building 200, right probably around Building 200, and at 1179 Eager Road in Yuba City. That's north of the city of Yuba City. You can go out Live Oak Boulevard or Highway 99 and get off at the freeway exit at Eager Road, or you can just turn left at Live Oak Boulevard. The property's sandwiched in between 99 and Live Oak Boulevard, but go out and check it out. They'll get going around between 6 and 6:30. Doors are open at 6. They'll get going at 6:30, and they're just inviting everybody to come together and celebrate at the end of this campaign season. And it might be the last go-around for some of the candidates to just pop in and say hello and hope you vote for me and hand out some flyers if folks haven't voted. So voting is this Tuesday, so it'd be the night before the voting. So check that out, Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots, and I'm very grateful for the amount of money they help me with every month. It's a great relief, and because of Big Kahuna, nothing's free out here. In fact, there's a coin op. This is a coin op air conditioning over here. You got to throw a couple quarters in there, and then it comes on and chills it down a little bit. So so one more time, my if you want to text me, my phone text is 530-713-1838. Put your email in there, and I'll send you loose pics. And don't worry about it. You ain't gonna hurt my feelings if you don't like what I say. So we'll be right back, and hang with us. We got a few other people want to talk here.
Liberty-loving patriots, this is Chrisanne Hall, Liberty's lobbyist and founder of Liberty First University. You're listening to KMYC 1410 AM, The Patriot. The founding fathers and mothers didn't pledge their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor, so we could sit around and rest on their laurels. They expected us
to exercise our God-given rights, and to practice eternal vigilance, to monitor and hold accountable our fellow citizens to whom we delegate power. The federal government is not the supreme law of the land. The Constitution is. To learn more about the Constitution and to help get the word out about how our founders truly wanted this republic to operate, be sure to tune in to Live with Lou every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon. Visit me at chrisannhall.com and at libertyfirstuniversity.com.
Did you know that California was never supposed to be just one state? Before the state was formed in 1850, there was discussion of forming 3 states instead of 1. California has an area larger than 7 East Coast states combined, and it takes 14 hours to drive from one end of the state to the other. California is simply too large to govern. Rural communities are being outvoted by more densely populated areas. The state of Jefferson is the solution. Please visit SOJ51.net to show yours.
All right. So I was mentioning earlier that since Donald Trump took over as president, one of the guy just keeps amazing me as while he keeps making other people sick. I'm just amazed at what he's doing that I always wondered, why don't they do something? Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? Why don't they do this? We vote conservatives in, quote unquote conservatives. We vote Republicans in. We do this, we do that. And nothing changes. What happens? And then all of a sudden Donald Trump goes in and in like 16, 18 months, 24,000 employees go off the rolls. And they didn't necessarily have to fire them. You know, some of them just quit. Some of them retired, right? And they just don't replace them. Isn't that great? It's kind of interesting when people get sick or they go on vacation or something, and you realize when they're gone, you didn't even need them. You don't even miss them, right? You said, oh, they haven't been here for 2 weeks? You said, why do we have that guy around here anyway? He never got anything done anyway, right? He just like extra baggage. So maybe you don't know how many people we got working for the federal government. 2,789,000, 2,789,000, right? So just this last month, it went down 3,000 to 786,000, 2,786,000. You think, well, I don't know whether that may not seem like a lot to you over the whole United States, or you might think, whoa, that means a lot. Well, I got it. You know what really shocked me when I went on transparentcalifornia.com and then I put in Yuba County. You can look up the counties, you can look up the cities, you can look up agencies, you can do a lot of things. You can look up retirement pay, you can look up salaries, benefits. Anyway, I looked up Yuba County, and so I don't want to get Russ Brown's hair on fire, so I'm just going to say there were over 1,000 employees, part and full-time, for under 75,000 residents. Now, I think it's 1,012 or 1,016, but I don't want to be called a liar or misinforming. So I'm just going to say over 1,000. How about that? I'm just going to err on the side of safety or not exaggerate. So, but let's just say over. I want you to just think about it. Can you imagine our forefathers, my parents, thinking that they needed over 1,000 employees to manage this county of 644 square miles, with over, right now it's probably just about 75,000 people, right? In other words, every 75 people, we need an employee. Unbelievable. It just seems like a huge amount to me. I thought, well, what if, I got a kick out of it a few years ago when Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor and there was a big budget crisis, so they gave furloughs and they called them non-essential services. And they laid the folks off, they cut their pay and laid them off for a certain, not fully, but just maybe they cut a day here, a day there, or a few days, and then brought them back. And I thought, if they're non-essential, why don't we just eliminate them altogether and just make them nons? Not essential, non-essential, just non. Just eliminate them. And give me the money back. So anyway, Trump is doing what he promised. You know, people thought, he's not going to do that. Oh, he's not going to do that. Oh, he can't do that. Nobody else. Bonner, he couldn't do it. Ryan can't do it. Bush couldn't do it. Clinton couldn't do it. Right? Nobody can do it. Doesn't matter who's heading the Senate. Doesn't matter whether they're Republican or not. They can't do it. They just can't do anything. They just always give reasons why they can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Well, we can't do it. Well, we couldn't get the vote. Oh, we couldn't do that. Well, we just can't agree on the wording. We couldn't agree on the verbiage. We can't agree on the numbers. We can't agree on this. We can't agree on that. What they can't agree on is getting paid every month. That's what they can agree on. So, but I'll tell you where the number of employees are growing in government, and that's at your local level, according to labor statistics. And Russ Brown and Chuck Smith at Sutter County are the public information. They can check these out for themselves. They're highly educated, college graduates, I'm sure, and they can write and do all kinds of things. So they can look this up. So total government employment has increased at the state and local level. Now, that's a bad sign right there. Because in Yuba County and Sutter County, they're both wanting to raise taxes, and in the city of Yuba City, they want to raise taxes. They're all, if you notice any moisture in the gutters, that's drool from those bureaucrats. And they are just, they want that money. They see, now Marysville's like bringing in $2 million a year, just cashing in on all those people in town. They ain't cashing in on me. I haven't bought jack diddly over there. I buy all my stuff out of the area. My gas, everything I buy out of the area. They lost a customer from me. But so total in government employment in the U.S. increased by 5,000 people in May. That's because of state and local. And did you hear the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People? You know, we can't say colored people, but they won't change their name. They won't say BP. NAACP, black people. Or AAP, African American people. Although most of them never even visited Africa. They don't want to go there. They don't like the bugs. Black unemployment rate hit its new, who would have thought? Nobody that I know. In fact, when I got on the Trump bandwagon, none of my friends were even on it. They were on all kinds of other wagons. That little sissy Bush or Rand Paul or Cruz or something. And so who would have dreamed that the black unemployment rate would have hit the lowest record in the history of keeping records on different ethnicities and employment? It's now at 5.9%. Now, the NAACP, they don't give a damn. They would rather have 15% unemployment and blame it on the Ku Klux Klan or white cops or racist policies. They just hate the fact that black people actually want to get off selling crack cocaine and heroin and go to work. They're actually going to work. Each month, there's a new record being set. Last month, it was they were down to 6.6% unemployment. Now it's 5.9%. Pretty soon, we're going to have to say, will you please quit aborting all those black kids? Because we know we need more black workers. And the Hispanics, their rate was down to 4.9%. Man, that's awful low. Who would have thought? You remember Trump, the guy that the entire stock market was supposed to crash, the guy who's a damned idiot, right? Even though he's built Trump towers, Trump this, Trump that, Trump this, Trump that, overhauled the ice skating rink with a little bit of chump change over there in New York when they spent $6 million or, I don't know, bajillions of dollars on it and nobody could figure out how to fix it. He fixed it overnight. Big, stupid Trump. Made fun of his hair, made fun of his everything. Brought up every kind of prostitute, wild woman they could to disparage him. You think they ever talk about Obama? Oh, yeah, you say, Obama, look at his ears. Oh, my God, you're a racist. I can't believe, hi, that's just racist. Or if you think, well, I don't think he's doing very well. Oh, well, that's racist. This is racist, that's racist, this is racist. Don't you dare talk about his daughters. And then what that gal this week called her a C-U-N-T. I can't say all that. They say it on all the other news deals, but the big kahuna here, he's running a very puritanical station. So you can't say, he can say it, but I can't say it over this microphone. Then if I cuss on the microphone, then I get cussed out after the studio, after we get off the air. So I can't say that. But everybody can attack a conservative's daughters or sons, make fun of them, but you can't talk about a black girl. No, sirree, Bob. Oh, by the way, I wrote an article about this school security, securing the schools with guns. Remember Arnie Duncan, who was this is a big wuss, big old sissy. I'm surprised he even was married to a woman. He was the education director, Secretary of Education for Obama, and he came out along with one of his assistants and said, we want all the kids in the nation. We hope that all the kids in the nation, we propose that all the kids in the nation would boycott schools until we take all the guns away. And then there would be no more bullets flying through the air. Well, after he made that big proclamation, somebody went and checked out where his kids go to school. And his kids go to school at a private school where they have armed guards. Now, isn't that so typical? Obama says, nope, black poor people cannot have charter special schools. But he sends his kids to a special school. But black poor people, rich black people can have whatever protections and special schools and special benefits they want. But poor black people need to eat, as we used to call shit on a shingle. Did you know what that was? It was hash. They called it hash on toast. Right? Remember that? Do you remember that? I didn't know you were that old. My mom she called it that. Well, Obama, that's what he wants his black people to have, poor black people in the NAABP. But then they go and they got the gourmet meal, and they got guys outside and women outside packing weapons to protect their little loved ones. Isn't that so hypocritical? One day they're telling you we want all the guns removed, but we want guns to protect our kids when we go. Well, it's just terrible. Every week something good's happen, and the liberals, in fact, Nancy Pelosi, the Botox babe, that honestly, that gal, one of these days, she's just going to be found sitting in the back of a car drooling and babbling to herself. That gal is so over the hill. And she said, unemployment rates, labor rates don't mean anything. Did you see that? She said it don't mean anything. What's the point of an unemployment rate? You know, it's just like, have you ever seen her house down in San Francisco? I don't know whether people just don't care about people. I care about people. I don't care what their philosophical belief, whether they want to have sex with a horse or the same sex or another sex. I don't really care. Or whether they're Democrat or Republican or failed to declare independent. I hope people get a job and have enough food and do okay. I want them to do well and be fulfilled, have a good time. But the Democrats, if they don't want people to have a good time, because then that means they won't be in power. It's all about being in power, so they would rather see people suffer and be all screwed up, and then that facilitate them getting a job, which would be go back east and walk back and forth in a nice suit and have a $50 haircut on taxpayer dime and have a gas card so they don't have to pay the gas taxes. That even true right here locally. You think Bob Bendorf and the supervisors pay their own gas? Come on, man. We're paying their gas, our gas, everybody's gas. We're getting ripped off is what we're talking about. Well, but I feel good. I'm happy for blacks, Hispanics, Asians, extraterrestrials, and poor white trash all going to work and having a good time. So, in fact, I saw one guy used to be in prison all the time. Ted Holmes used to help him all the time. And I saw him post on Facebook, I'm a foreman. Foreman in construction working up there in Oroville Dam. That guy's probably every day. He's got to have extra pockets to carry the cash he's making up there. Making all kinds of cash. That boy used to be a norteño and out on the streets doing stupid stuff, and we used to spend $30,000 to keep that guy down there at San Quentin. Now he's up there making money, paying taxes. That's what I'm talking about. I'm happy for him. I gave him a smile and a thumbs up on Facebook. Well, I want to mention to you this on expansion of government. This is so pitiful. And Ruby Larson, I love that name, Ruby. I thought, oh, there's a Ruby. That's an old-style name, but I like Ruby. I used to have a couple Rubies in my high school class. They were all fired up, Rubies. And Ruby Larson and the Appeal Democrat wrote, schools to provide free meals during the summer. And I thought, why are they doing that? Should I go down there to Mary Covalot and get me a hot dog at lunchtime, or go down there and get me some eggs and potatoes in the morning? Right on. In other words, it's, you know something? It's like we're in the Depression. We need soup kitchens. We need lines, and people just are carrying around their little containers, little mugs, those metal mugs where they can get just a little watery soup. And so this article, I feel sorry for Ruby. I don't even know whether she believes what she wrote, but she wrote this heart-rending article here. Let me just see if you want to go read it for yourself. You may not believe what I'm saying. It's May 30th, Wednesday, the Appeal Democrat. You may be able to get it online. It says schools to provide free lunches during the summer. Why would they do that during the summer? These kids, did you know that a lot of these kids don't even have parents? They go home, just live in a couple rooms in a hotel all by themselves, 6-year-old kids. They go home, nobody there. Just like they don't even know where they came from. Ruby says a lot of children rely on school nutrition programs for at least one daily meal. In other words, if they didn't eat that meal, they ain't going to get no meal. Parents are so drug addicted, or they just can't figure out how to get to the store and back and buy a head of lettuce and some tuna fish and some bread and mayonnaise and make a tuna sandwich. That'd been my favorite sandwich. I'd eat tuna sandwich every day for the rest of my life. And they said that's the only nutrition. You know, every once in a while I'm walking down the street and I see a little kid laying on the sidewalk. His stomach is like all bloated and his ribs are sticking out and his eyes are big and flies are landing all over him. And you think, is that kid in Biafra? No, he's like in downtown Marysville. Oh, no, he's over on Gray Avenue. He's all bloated. Flies all over his face. Got no clothes on. So Ruby says, I can't believe it. A lot of children rely on school nutrition programs for at least one daily meal. A lot of these kids need to not eat a couple meals a day. They're so obese. One day, we got Mary Jane Griego and John Nicoletti both having struggles with their own weight. Their whole time on supervisors, they kept getting bigger and bigger. I was advocating to get them bigger chairs to sit in. And they were advocating people to lose weight. And now I don't know how people are gaining all this weight and not eating. They just look at food. You see food. You see it and you get fat. As long as the school is in session, they're covered. Oh, thank God there's school. What happened when there was school when you went to learn something? You know, when I went to college, nobody gave me no food. I just thought of that the other day. I paid to go to college, and then I had to pay to go get some yogurt or a sandwich or something at the cafeteria if I got hungry. It's like, how did I pull that off? It's like, I had to do it myself. So some districts now offer free meals to children during the summer. And they're going to say, I can't believe Lou Benninger is against it. He's against feeding children. No food for you. No food for you. The food Nazi. No food for you. You stay home. You shut up. No, don't you speak in English. Just stick with Spanish. No tacos. No tortillas for you. Between Yuba and Sutter County, then it tells about all these kids. My God, there's between 11,000, like almost 12,000 out of 46,000 children are food insecure. How do we know that? Did Bendorf do a robocall and say, are you insecure about whether you're going to get a candy bar today or a taco or a burrito? Are you going to get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Or are you insecure? You're food insecure. You know, they can't say they're starving in America because kids are obese. How do you take an obese kid and convince people to feed him more because he's food insecure, because you want to employ all these union workers all summer and have year-round schools? The next step at some point, and I've been in school meetings when the school administrators said, we are better parents than those damn parents. This is a step in that direction. Now we're taking over the feeding of the kids. Then they're going to say we want to pass a school bond to put in some bunks because some kids don't have anywhere to stay. Man, we got to bring them over here. If we don't want to bring them here, we're going to have to bury them. They're going to die in the streets. I can't figure it out. One day they're obese, and the next day they're food insecure. It's a euphemism. It's kind of Planned Parenthood. You think Planned Parenthood would be helping parents be good parents. Instead, they help parents kill their kids, called Planned Parenthood. So now we have food insecurity. I feel insecure about food. The thing I'm insecure about is whether it's going to put any weight on me when I eat it. So Mary DeLong, she's the director of school nutrition and warehousing at Yuba City Unified. She said it's important to make sure they have access to healthy meals year-around. God help them. What would they have done? Parents, you know something? I don't know how we did it. My parents, when I got up in the morning, they fed me. And then they made provision for me to have food at the middle of the day when they weren't standing right by my side when I was at school. I packed a lunch. They sent a lunch with me, or they gave me money to pick up a meal at school. Then at home, it was a miracle. I came home, just goofed off, studied a little bit, played a couple hours of hoops, did something, did this, did that, rode around, did something. There was time we were all going to get together. They said, come back at this time. I came back at that time, and there was food on the table. It was a miracle of God, just like manna from heaven. Just fell right out of there. It was like food there. My mother was there, and then we'd clean up, and then the next day it would happen all over again. There was food in the morning. And I just can't believe that now we have parents, and they just skip the food thing. It's just like food's too much of a pain in the rear. You got to go to the store, you got to pick it up, you got to buy it, then you got to figure out how to cook it. That, you know, one I read that article here a few years ago on this station where this extreme liberal guy says it's just not good enough that we help people buy the food. Now they don't know how to cook it. So now we need people we hire in-home supportive services to prepare food for people. So Yuba City Unified School District is like, it's a world food program. It's like the United Nations. It's UNESCO. They're going in, saving the day because people in Yuba County are starving to death. I don't know. I worked at Glad Tidings for almost 30 years. I'm still working with them. I just don't get paid anymore. I'm on the cheap. People call, we need food. I said, okay, come out. I never found every one of them. All were overweight. Some of them were extremely overweight. All needed food. I said, you don't need food. You need less food. You need to cut back on your food. So now they're going to provide food all over the city. There's food everywhere. We're just going to have troughs and dump out sandwiches and cornflakes and things. And now last year, they're so proud, we distributed approximately 12,000 meals for breakfast and 15,000 for lunches. And I feel so good. I'm proud when I go home because those parents won't feed their kids anymore. And We're the only ones standing between them and Biafra. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. You're listening to Live with Lou. This is a Patriot, and we're happy you're listening here. And if you're not, we're happy about that too. There's a lot of things to do in life. We're talking about the free meal program. Did I lose my ears here? No, I got okay. We're talking about the free meal program for kids in the Yuba Sutter area. And what a tragedy that is. You think, oh my God, you can't do that. That's like, what do you want to do, stab the kids? You know, here's the thing, folks. Eating isn't all there is to it. We're talking about relationships with parents and kids. We're talking about, I can imagine, every once in a while I have a guy, because I do work in the jail, he said, Lou, I'm just happier in prison. I just want to go to prison. And it's difficult out here to make it. He's become so acclimated to institutionalized settings like people providing your food every day, right? We're really readying kids. If you go to a school and see the preformed little trays they eat off of, it's just like prison. If you go to Yuba County Jail, they have the same kind of trays. They're just bigger, hold more food. And they bring the hot food in these big stainless steel carts and hand it out to people throughout the jail. They do the same thing in prison. And so now all we're doing is bringing it right down to the schools and institutionalize. You don't need your family. You don't need the loving care of mom, and know that mom put a note in your box, in your little lunch box, or that she made that sandwich for you, or she thought to put a cookie in for you, or maybe you had lunch at home with her or your dad or wherever, a grandma or a brother or older brother or sister, the family connection, I don't know whether you think it's important. I like to go out every once in a while with somebody and have a meal with them. It's different than just talking to somebody on the phone, of having a meal together. There's something special about it. It's like breaking bread, right? And so now what we have is just slopping people like hogs. He's like, oh, Lou, the cafeteria workers, they really love the kids. Oh, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they really do. They replace mom and dad and brother and sister, uncles and aunts and grandpas and grandmas. This is crap. It's just a crappy deal. Not only is it a waste of tax dollars, that's not the worst of it. It's like my friend Dr. Cassidy, Joe Cassidy, used to complain about all these universal preschool. He says, why don't we support parents to stay home with their kids rather than tax them so much? Give the money back to the parents so they can stay home and be the preschool teacher for their kids. No better teacher than mom. Now we're replacing mom and dad and everybody else by having institutionalized feeding for kids. I can imagine a kid saying, Mom, don't bother cooking today. I'm just going to go down to the school. I like their food better. Can you imagine? I don't want to eat here at the family. I want to eat down there because it's funner with all the kids. More fun. I really don't want to be a part of this family. I want to be a part of that family down there. Honestly, people, what is going on here is idiotic. It's socialism. It's communism. It's the state running your kids' lives. And it's so fascinating to me. They talk about it's maybe the one nutritious meal of the day. That's crap. Some of those foods, we just got done with Barack Obama's wife making it her big deal to dictate the diet of every kid in this country, and it just made people sick. And now we're talking about how wonderful the meals are? Oh, really? Why don't we let the parents decide how wonderful the meals are? I was reading, I like to read Breitbart News. I like their articles. Somebody said, oh, they're on right wing. So what? Just read left wing. You know something? What I feel about left wing people, just go and listen and read and do what you want to do and leave everybody else alone. So I wanted to look at something here. And let me just find it here on my computer. In Colorado, the number of people under the influence of drugs and dying under the influence of drugs and driving has gone off the charts. And it's surpassing people that are dying driving while intoxicated. Hold that thought. Isn't that amazing? So when I mentioned to you that Jay Bordenkircher, former firefighter with Yuba City, talked about the fact that people were drunk, drugged, deranged, distracted, and dumb. That's what people do out on the highways. That's what's going on in Colorado. And you think, oh, well, it's no big deal. Let's just legalize drugs. Let's legalize marijuana. Well, it has some issues to it because, you know, and every time I hear Jay Bordenkircher teach at trauma intervention, I think, wow, I wonder if that person coming at me right now is under the influence. I'm going to need really to pay attention. Maybe he's going to cross over. So I want to talk about another topic here in a minute, and this article in Breitbart was foreign drug cartels targeting legal marijuana states. That would be you. That would be me. That would be California, and it mentions Yuba County in this article. But I want to just give kudos to Monty Hecker and Elite Universal Security before I finish up on these couple of items before we land the plane here today. But Monty Hecker runs Elite Universal Security, and it's a business that's been here for decades in Yuba County, but it operates in Yuba, Sutter, Butte, and all the way up to Redding. And it protects people, right? You think, oh, well, I thought we got it with the police and sheriff's department. And I think, well, no, you really don't. They're understaffed. And in fact, now they don't even respond out to a lot of calls that they used to respond to. In fact, Steve Durford just came out and gave a whole list of things that they aren't going to do because they're short of money, because the supervisors bled the money off from the sheriff's department budget, spent it elsewhere, right? It's like a guy bringing home his paycheck, but he stops by the casino on the way home and drops half of it at the crap table and then brings the leftover and hopes the wife can make do with it. And so Monty Hecker runs Elite Universal Security. Monty's retired military, and they can patrol your home or business, and they do a great job, and you can get a job with them. If you want to become a security guard. And not only that, if they like you, they'll train you and hire you. And they got jobs right now opening. They got jobs open. You talk about low unemployment, they got jobs available right now. If you call them at 749-0280, you can get yourself, as they say, a job. 749-0280, 530 area code. They're over here in Yuba County. And they got current openings for full-time patrol drivers up in the Chico area, armed officers in Chico area, part-time officers in all the areas that they work in. They're now hiring in all locations. That just sounds good to me. Lots of work. So 749-0280 to check in on that. And then they have some classes coming up that you might want to check in on. If you want to get your exposed firearms license or your concealed firearm course, they got courses coming up on June 9th and 10th, and then they're going to repeat that again later in the month. June 23rd and 24th, same type of thing. So if you go on to their school academy site, api-academy.com, you can look for yourself and see what courses are coming up month after month after month. They're always changing. And they cover all kinds of things like tasing people, guard card training, pepper spray, handcuff training, de-escalation of force, security guard. In other words, they'll train you. And maybe you're going out to Yuba College. Maybe you want to be a police officer, but maybe the course is, you got to wait for a while to get in out there, or you're not quite ready, but you want to pick up a course or two. You can check it out with Monty, and you can take care of business out there. So I wanted to talk, if I can find where I am again. Here we go. So last year, I wrote an article saying, and I began to highlight the concerns of Hill residents in Yuba County. And that there were drug cartels up there, and people were growing huge amounts of marijuana, were ignoring all the rules that the supervisors set up for growing marijuana. They were putting down wells without building permits. They were putting up buildings without permits. They were dumping chemicals. They were killing animals and varmints that would mess around with their plantings, eat their plantings. Gophers and deer and rabbits, they were poisoning them. They were using toxic chemicals that our own farmers are not allowed to use, but they were getting them out of Mexico. And they were poisoning bugs and animals and anything else that would hurt their cash crop of marijuana. Not only were they weren't just growing marijuana a few pounds to sell to local users, they were shipping it all over the United States through the postal system, through other means. They were shipping it into other states by the thousands of pounds. They were guarding these grows with automatic weapons. Some of the people that were guarding the grows didn't belong here. They were from other countries, other states. They were criminals. And so I wrote an article about that, and I got some blowback from Randy Fletcher, the supervisor for the Hill District, saying that it was safe in the foothills. And I think his point was that it wasn't a high crime area. But the problem is that people were living next to places that were once serene, 400 acres, 200 acres, 50 acres, serene, beautiful. And now they had dogs on them with guys with automatic weapons. And God forbid your dog go across that fence, or you crossed over into their property, you're liable to get held up, shot, or whatever. And people were intimidated. People had lived up in the foothills for many, many decades. We're now thinking of moving because people, the police, there's just a couple officers or deputies that patrol up there, and they can't be everywhere at once. And so you're basically on your own. In this country, the country was created where people would discipline themselves. They would be law-abiding. They would be Bible people that would trust other people, be honest, and be responsible for their own behavior. But now when you have people taking advantage, now this article that you can read about, it's May 29th, Breitbart, you can read about it, and it's all about Yuba County and other counties in California and throughout states where marijuana is now legal, and cartels have come in, and they have taken over these areas and are overwhelming these sheriffs who don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the recruits, they don't have the personnel, they don't have the firepower to take down these people. So I had written an article saying we need to declare a state of emergency. I wasn't the first to think about it. A guy named Buck Weckman, who was a retired Cal Fire guy or Department of Forestry firefighter who had lived up there for many, many decades, raised his kids up there, and had been beating this drum how it was dangerous in the foothills. Well, finally, we had two deputies, some of our finest deputies, respond to a distress call up in their Oregon house at a marijuana grow for a Rastafarian church, supposedly, they claimed they had a right to grow marijuana, although they didn't, but nobody had really raided them or taken the plants out. But one of their employees had gone nutso and was angry at them, and so was ripping out their plants. And so when the deputies showed up, they had a shootout, and the felon, the guy was a felon on probation or on parole. He ended up dead, and 2 deputies were shot who have never returned to work yet. And all of a sudden, Mr. Fletcher and the supervisors began to pay more attention to comments where before the Hill residents were just a bunch of whiners and pissy people that just were hypersensitive and complainers. Now it's like when your deputies get shot, and now you're paying out hundreds of thousands of dollars and being off duty and having to hire other deputies and paying them to be off, and probably for the rest of their life you're going to pay damages on their body, right? Disability costs, etc. If they never return to work, they'll be medically retired with the county on the hook for it. Now it's a big deal, and so they passed an emergency. They declared a state of emergency because other counties had already done it, and they brought in the National Guard, and they brought in other entities, other law enforcement entities to help enforce the law. And so in this article, it's talking about transnational criminal organizations. Now, all you needed to do, you didn't need to be a detective to figure this out. You could talk to guys like Bart Young, who's a firefighter up there around Collins Lake area, and he was telling me there was a group from Israelis that were growing up there. There are all kinds of criminals up there. And so this article says that the transnational criminal organizations were typically Chinese, Cuban, Mexicans. Illegals, all of them. So when they raided houses down in Plumas Lake recently, and they raided houses in Edgewater, they were houses that were purchased with cash from Chinese transnational criminal organizations. The money was deposited with loaning institutions under $10,000 at a time, because it comes in over $10,000 and above, then Homeland Security is alerted, and banks have a mandate to notify Homeland Security. California raids were carried out in the Sacramento area, included homes in Calaveras, Placer, San Joaquin, El Dorado, Yuba, and Amador counties. This is after Mr. Fletcher declared the Yuba County foothills safe. And people that didn't want their names to be divulged, but they were skilled in the use of parcel maps and Google Maps, were sending me visuals of one planting after another planting after another planting, and some people now estimate that there are at least 1,000 plantings in Yuba County alone, but it's safe. It's like safe. I know what it's like because I've had my neighborhood go through many changes, and right now I have a tweaker house in my neighborhood. And all night there's people in and out of that house and foolishness going on, stupid stuff going on. People coming with backpacks on bikes and on skateboards and pushing carts. It's ridiculous. All brought to you by Yuba County government in the city of Marysville. We'll be right back for our last half hour.
When I turned 18, I couldn't wait to vote. After all, voting is a privilege for all Americans, right? Then I did the math. Did you know that the northern third of California only has 3 out of 80 seats in the Assembly and 3 out of 40 seats in the Senate? Northern California has no representation, and my vote doesn't count. Splitting from California and forming the state of Jefferson is the only remedy. Please visit soj51.net for more information. Please donate now to help restore representation.
Check out the Territorial Dispatch. Papers are weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch which features local news and events for the Yuba, Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
All right. We're talking about the government can. The government's going to feed your kids. They don't need you, Mom and Dad. We'll go down there and get some grub at the school. I don't like you cooking food over here. All you meth addicts, you don't need to feed those kids. Just like say, hey, just go down and eat at the school. I'm going to sleep this afternoon. Sick. Really sick. Sicko out there, government. Well, I was talking about the lack of response to not just low-life dopers, lowbrow folks growing a couple hundred plants. We're talking about people that are growing 500, 1,000. Cartels, machine guns, noxious chemicals, killing animals, killing pests of all things, killing wildlife in our foothills in Yuba County, and nobody doing about it. Until Buck Weckman began to throw a fit about it and organize, and we began to publish in the Territorial Dispatch aerial photos of plantings. I figured, hey, let's just publish it. And if the sheriff's department does not have the wherewithal, doesn't have the deputies, doesn't have the equipment, doesn't have the time, doesn't have the resources, the supervisors have spent the sheriff's budget elsewhere and screwed over our law enforcement, then let's just expose them ourselves and let the thieves among the drug community rip one another off. They cannibalize each other. In fact, I just was with a lady that I've gotten to know recently, just got released to stay in the United States. She used to work for the cartel, and she was a manufacturer since she was in her early teen years of heroin in Mexico until the cartels began to cut people's heads off and kill each other, and she actually got shot in the head and survived and ended up being a person that smuggled people and narcotics into the United States and through the United States. Large amounts of heroin, kilos of heroin. And all a part of the cartel until she was arrested and did prison time here. It's serious. It's real. It's happening. And it's happening in Yuba County. And the interesting thing was nobody was doing nothing about it until Buck Weckman started to make a stink about it. When I wrote an article about it, the response from Supervisor Fletcher was, it's safe in the foothills. Everything's fine up there. And nobody wanted to declare a state of emergency, even though Sheriff Lope up north in Shasta County had gotten a lot of help from National Guard to tear out groves of marijuana. So this article is very interesting in the Breitbart because it talks about where the raids occurred. And I remember when those raids happened, they happened in subdivisions that are nice subdivisions we've been talking about earlier. And it said foreign transnational criminal organizations would send cash in increments just under 10 grand. And they would purchase lots of property with cash. And the ones that were connected a lot to Yuba County were Chinese nationals. The amount of money, is amazing. It said in Washington State they raided 3 Chinese national groups who were said to be producing marijuana for New York State. Mike Hartman, Colorado Department of Revenue Executive Director, tasked with regulating and licensing the state's legalized cannabis industry, says the transnational organizations, are targeting legalized marijuana states like Colorado, California, in an attempt to shroud their operations in our legal environment here and then take the marijuana outside the state, which is illegal. Since marijuana was legalized in Colorado, highway seizures of drugs headed to other states is up by 43%. An NBC News report said Colombia is to cocaine as Colorado is to marijuana. In other words, they're producing it and shipping it out. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News guy, said that Randy Ladd, DEA Drug Enforcement Agency agent Randy Ladd said these states are absolutely turning a blind eye to it. In other words, the mass illegal growing of drugs and shipping them all over the states. Despite the rampant growth of illegal marijuana operations in Colorado, authorities seized 3.5 tons of drugs there in 2016. And U.S. Senator Republican, in quotes, Cory Gardner threatened to block the nomination of Department of Justice operations or positions after Attorney General Sessions announced a tougher policy of enforcement. Now, I want you to think about that. That's a true swamper, Republican swamper, Gardner, who is blocking nominations of Department of Justice positions under President Donald Trump to get back at, because General Sessions wants to enforce, Attorney General Sessions wants to enforce the law. I want you to think about that for a minute. It's the same type of thinking that Xavier Becerra, who's running for Attorney General, he was appointed to take Kamala Harris's spot. He's saying my chief success and my job is my mission here as Attorney General is to fight the President of the United States. People, that is corrupt right there. Sessions announced plans to rescind or take back an Obama-era memo that the DOJ would refrain from enforcing federal drug laws in states that had legalized marijuana. That's what Cory Gardner's all upset about, and he's your Republican. They even have found several members of a Vietnamese-American organization involved in an operation that would grow marijuana in Colorado and smuggle it to Texas. A trooper discovered $70,000 in cash in a car of Tien Nguyen. Nguyen is kind of like Smith in the United States. Nguyen, everybody's last name's Nguyen in parts of Vietnam. Nguyen's driver's license carried the address of a home that was busted in Colorado. The cash was packed in vacuum-sealed bags in the hatchback and the glove box. He was charged with money laundering. The arrest led to 30 other people in Colorado and Texas being arrested. They called Colorado the Napa Valley of Cannabis. The market is lucrative for foreign drug cartels who can get upward of $4,000 per pound of marijuana. Now, I want you to think, you can get a pound of marijuana, at least a pound off one plant. Think about how much money is involved here. The law enforcement officials uncovered drugs in 18 warehouses and storage units, along with 33 homes around the Denver area. This is a big sweep covering California, Colorado, etc. You know, people, we need to get some help up here. You remember after the deputies were shot, the Sheriff's Department in Yuba County, along with numerous other state agencies and other counties, swept in and busted one place after another, but it's been pretty quiet since. Do you catch my drift? Some of the places that I noted on my articles in the Territorial Dispatch and in actual snapshots, aerial snapshots, places with 200-300 acres, plots of land with 3 and 4 wells drilled, no permits, Buildings put up, no permits. Haven't been investigated, haven't been busted. Growing all kinds of marijuana, hauling it out of here. It's a big deal. It's interesting how what Buck was saying all along, Buck Weckman, was true, and the supervisors just drug their feet on the whole deal. Well, let's see how many, that's clock's right there, right? Okay. We're good. All right. I'm going to get down here and see if I can find, well, I already covered that with Arn Duncan. Putting his kids in a protected school while saying we all can live without protection except for my kids. Funny how people are like that. It's one thing if just the average parents like that, but it's another thing when you have someone with political power running the show. And so if you're planning on staying in California, this is a sad deal. I don't really eat a lot of jerky, although I really like it. But there's a gourmet jerky brand called Crave. Do you know it? Crave? Krave, Crave. It's owned by Hershey, the Hershey food company. I just think of chocolate when I think of Hershey, but I like jerky. And man, the Vietnamese like jerky. They like me to bring jerky over there. Man, they like jerky. They like hot food. And anyway, Crave, which is a gourmet jerky brand, I talked about the price pump operation that is moving out of Sonoma County. Well, I didn't know that Crave, located in Sonoma, California as well, is moving. They're leaving and they're going to Austin, Texas. And so they're just beginning the process, but it's just another company that can't afford to stay in California. In 2015, Crave was acquired by Hershey Company for $218 million. I should have started a jerky company. What happened? How come I'm always behind the curve on all this stuff? Anyway, a guy named John Sebastiani started it. It was a little Sonoma County startup that kind of went into a gourmet jerky success story in the wine region over there. And it's catapulted to become a leading healthy snack. Premium jerky is the fastest growing subsegment of the estimated $2.5 billion U.S. meat and snacks market. So there you have it. And they built their company here, and now they're saying we're moving. So Hershey says it has 18,000 employees worldwide and has more than 80 brands that drive more than $7.4 billion in annual revenues. Man, it's a big company. So it's consolidating their snack brands in Austin, Texas, where a lot of California companies are going. This will get your attention. From 2008 to 2015, roughly 9,000 companies fled California. Texas was the top beneficiary of those relocations. In many instances, a Lone Star state, they gave spiffs, incentives to California companies to relocate down there. So during the last several years, 7-8 years, California companies accounted for 15% of the businesses that moved their headquarters or expanded operations to Texas. So let me mention a couple. You might recognize them. How about Chevron? How about Charles Schwab Investments, Farmer Brothers Coffee, Jacobs Engineering, Jamba Juice? You ever had a Jamba Juice? I don't think they're that good for you, but they sure taste good. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, Kubota Tractors, Liberty Mutual, McKesson Corporation, I think that's food, NTT Data, Omnitrax, Pegasus Foods, Raytheon Corporation, State Farm Insurance, Toyota, the auto dealers, auto manufacturer. And last month, JetSuite, a private charter airline, announced it will relocate from Southern California to North Texas. Pretty sad, huh? Democrats don't give a crap. They just don't care. They just think, oh, we're going to have a socialist nation. We're going to have a socialist sub-nation or subset under the United States, and we're going to have a communist. We're going to feed all the children. You don't need to feed them anymore. The kids say, we don't need mom and dad. You wonder why people won't take a job, because they can get food stamps and they can get EBT cards. It's the same thing. We're training kids to just say, we don't need to work. They're going to feed us at school. Why would we need money? We just go down there and grab some chili beans and hamburger. And once we got rid of Michelle Obama and all that crazy food, poisonous food she's serving people. Well, I want to remind you about the Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots Day on the Green ice cream. Everybody likes ice cream. Everybody screams for ice cream, right? So they're going to have some ice cream out there. You don't even have to pay for it. Maybe some of you that are going to send your kids to all these schools should all get up, say, hey, there's free ice cream out at Church of Glad Tidings. The Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots are going to have ice cream. So we don't want to buy any. Why would we buy ice cream? It's free over there. Go over and mooch, 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 take, 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 take. It's interesting. The country was started with a lot of people that gave their lives, and now we're just all on the take. Take, 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 take. Go and get you some ice cream Monday night, this Monday night. And if you're a candidate, maybe you can go over and scoop a couple last-minute votes. Might push you over the edge to get into the final election. And then if you need that job, call Elite Universal Security. Go get yourself a job, or maybe you learn to shoot a gun, because you might need to tase somebody. Somebody was telling me the other day, I forget who it was. We were talking about tasing. He said he got tased and he pooped his pants. There's a guy in jail. I was speaking in jail. He's in BPOT. He said, I was joking with the deputy. He was taking us down the elevator, all the guys in my class, and I was saying, don't tase me, bro. I was telling the deputy that, don't tase me, bro. And the guy started laughing. He said, man, I got tased when I was drunk. And he said, poop my pants. And so if you're a young person, that means poop, poop. You got to say it twice. Pee, pee, poop, poop, night, night. All right. It's over. We'll see you next week. Have a good deal. Do something nice for somebody, because they may be an angel and you don't even know it. So be kind to somebody.